Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Well, I just wanted to give a quick update because I've seen a few things that I think um, worry me and that a lot of people have got wrong. I think that this market cycle is starting to play out very differently to those in the past, and a lot of people are just completely unaware of this and they're thinking that it's going to play out exactly like the last two market cycles, like the halving, the 4 year super cycle that I've spoken about. But I want to walk you through how it's already started to play out differently and why I think people have become really complacent, and this whole idea that like retail's not here yet, and just people justifying all these reasons why it's going way higher and they're not selling, that I think's wrong. So we've got a plethora of on-chain data, which is fantastic. So Crypto Quant is one of the new ones. Let's just bring up one of their pages. The guys over at the TIE, Sentiment, Glassnode, they're all slightly different in what they provide. But when we look at something like exchange, all exchange inflows, you guys can't see that behind me, so I'll just drag it over in a second. But this is done by the hour, and you can see over the last few days, and behind me where you can't see here, it's stayed pretty low. Now there's a little bit here that started to go up a little bit behind me, sticking out. You can see kind of 1 or 2 bars, but there's very, very few people taking profits or old coins moving. And we keep hearing things like, whale addresses have been adding coins, while it's the little retail investor that's sold, and painting that picture that whales are continuing to accumulate. But what that doesn't really account for, this is probably the first thing to be aware of, that we've got a lot of data for the first time. We didn't have that at the peak in previous cycles. And so I think that's kind of making people a little bit complacent and giving them a false sense of security, because everyone out there, like all the YouTube channels, everyone on Twitter, they're all retweeting this stuff and talking about it. And so the vast majority of people, because most people in the crypto space are like retail investors or individual investors, it's only the funds and that smart money that's recently got in. And I'm sure they probably look at this stuff too. And there's plenty of subscriptions that, offer this stuff. And so everyone is looking at the same stuff. And so everyone is seeing no one's moving their coins yet. And it's a little bit like no one wants to be first and no one wants to be last. I think once we do get that first day or hour, some people have the premium services and they'll get those notifications and they'll move their coins and they'll sell. And by the time others get it, or they watch a YouTube video and they hear about it and whatever, I just don't know. Like, we haven't had this before. So I just think that when we didn't have all this, there were probably more people selling because they just didn't know, and they're in good profits. And we've just been spoiled, in previous years, 10x returns, 100x returns, and now people are kind of sitting on like 10x or 20x returns, even on Bitcoin and ETH in under a year. And again, just complacency. Like in the stock market, you're aiming to get 8% a year, the best funds in the world. Bond investors get 1% a year. Like, people are just so spoiled in crypto that they think, oh, there's no reason to take profits because it's going up another 1,000%. That's probably the second point I'll touch on. This market cycle is the first one where we've got up to some pretty big numbers. Bitcoin's worth $1 trillion. These aren't just small market caps where we can say the upside's basically unlimited here. There's going to be a point where you have to say, for any of the individual like companies or chains or projects, there's going to be some realistic valuations come in sooner or later. Things just aren't going to be worth $10 trillion because Bitcoin's worth $100 trillion. And I spoke about that. Probably another point to be aware of while we're at it here. These BTC pairs. So people saying things like, oh, it's at its lows on its Bitcoin pair. And so that's the reason I'm buying, because you can see, it's kind of cyclical. When it hits its lows against Bitcoin, it always bounces. And again, I just don't think that's true at all, for the same reasons I just touched on. The market cap is going to be a bit of a reality check. And Litecoin isn't going to go to this, multi-million trillion dollar market cap, whatever it is, just because Bitcoin is going up, because people realize that value. If people have got coins and all of a sudden it's these paper gains of enormous numbers, they're going to send to an exchange and take some profits and sell. And very few people are going to be buying if these altcoins are sitting on billion and trillion dollar market caps, because it's just not realistic. That sort of money isn't going to flow into alts, I don't think. So that's the next point. The other one is that these markets are dominated by leverage traders still. So BitMEX has become less important of a player, but we've got 100x leverage on all these exchanges now. And look at these funding rates. They are crazy high at the moment. So anything above, normal is 0.01%. And then, as it gets higher, you'd probably say 0.04% is starting to get up there. 0.08% is typically, high. And then above that, it's, kind of getting overheated. So at the moment, basically every exchange here on Bitcoin and ETH is way above that. 13 basis points. What else have we got here? 17 on OKX, 25 on Bybit for Bitcoin, and 15 on Ethereum. And I mean, you can go down this list and find some even crazier numbers that people are paying at the moment to go long or even short some of these coins, but the vast majority here are long. So 40 basis points for BTT. It's very, very clear when you look at the open interest that it's just been growing massively. Up $1.5 billion. Ethereum's down a little bit over the past week, so be it. But I mean, there's $12 billion of open interest and $5 billion. And you think about the ETH to Bitcoin ratio, that's a lot of positions for Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. So that's, these things are going to be super volatile. And we've already seen that massive spike up and down $1,000 in like 5 minutes yesterday. So the big whales are going to try and like whip people out of the shorts, even though there's very few shorts. And then they're going to probably push markets down and try and create a liquidation event. Just like we see a short squeeze up, we'll see a short squeeze down, I believe, when this market turns, when we've got all those people like super leveraged. So here we see whale positions. Less than 50% means that there's more whales that are short. So whales just aren't longing at the moment. Binance is the only exception here. And I'd probably say that might be a bit misleading, because we might have more retail traders using Binance that just happen to have large accounts. I don't know. I'm just clutching at straws there. But basically everyone else, the whales aren't long. They're net short at the moment, at a time when funding rates are super high. And so that tells us it's those retail investors that are borrowing money to go leverage long on all these different coins at a time when all the charts look like this. Altcoin index, mid cap, shitcoin, DeFi. I've spoken about all these at length. Members in our group know that I've shared some trade ideas already about a few of these. The shitcoin index was one we shorted. We shorted ADA from 95 cents. It's just, what was the other one? This was an amazing trade. Elrond from 206. That liquidated all the way down to 65. So this is a classic example of what can happen when there's not a lot of liquidity and there's really thin order books and there's not many buyers out there, but everyone's sitting on these huge paper profits. They go to sell and there's just not a big number of buyers. The other thing I might just mention, this morning you probably saw that tweet I put out, TX Street. This is a great website that shows you like all the transactions waiting in a visual way. So this is the bus stop for the Bitcoin blockchain. Everyone's waiting for the next block, and Ethereum. So $5 median transfer fee at the moment. Bitcoin, this morning it was like 40 minutes between blocks and there's like 60, 70, 80,000 transactions waiting. Even the transaction fees over here, they're starting to climb. And all these are signs that we see near a top when people are starting to try and send their coins to an exchange. And a lot of beginners don't really understand how to do that, or they don't have control of their own coins. So they'll send it from like one exchange where they've maybe bought to a bigger exchange to sell, or whatever it is. And they might be sending from their hardware wallet to the exchange. and they don't know why it's taking hours, and they just don't understand how fees work and all that kind of stuff, and they get caught in no man's land. So this is why I've been doing videos about having a plan, how to use stable coins. Do you know how to use a DEX? Do you understand how to pay high gas fees? Do you know how to read a blockchain to see what your transaction is doing? All those will probably be linked below, all those different videos. But that's the next thing that I'm worried about. So the other thing I'll probably mention is these markets have changed. So typically, price discovery and all this info and alpha, it comes through Twitter, it comes through the OGs. That's all well and good, and I don't mind that either. But a lot of information is being fed to the 90% through, the YouTubers, and you look at the numbers. Some of these YouTube channels have grown 100,000 people in a month, and they're all making these videos with headlines, 10,000 ETH, 20,000, new all-time high this week. Now, you guys know that I've always spoken about how long-term I remain bullish. I think Bitcoin can go to 100,000 in the next 5 years. I think ETH can probably go to 10,000 in the next 5 years. But just, be realistic. Zoom out and have a look at those charts and tell me if it's going to go there in a straight line, or you think it's more likely that it's overheated and time for a correction. All these newbies that are piling in, watching all these videos every day, being told that, it's going to $2,000 this week, it's going to $10,000 this year. Even people that I really respect, I won't name any names, have come out with some pretty big price targets in some pretty unrealistic timeframes. And if you were around in December 2017, you'll remember it happened the exact same way. Even the fund managers, even the big voices in the space, they're all saying Bitcoin's going to 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is. Here's some thoughts I shared the other day about why I was taking profits. This morning, for members, I won't give away too much detail, but I did a bit of a write-up about how I think markets have changed. So many people are just thinking that we're going to have this, stock to flow model or whatever it is, and it's just going to go up. And I think that it's not. I think that the cycle is going to play out very differently this time because everyone is expecting and watching this. And people have short memories. Some of you will recall, where were we? We're back in 2020 now, and we had that run up from the bottom to 14K. Where are we? 2021. That was 2019. And this run up here was very, very different to previous cycles. In previous bear markets, price stayed low down here, and then it crept up. And, that's just completely different to what people were expecting. And so here we are, we've had a massive run up, and we've, I just think that it could be very different and correct, or just go sideways for a very long time and have a massive range between like 20K and 50K for a year before it has the next high. So everyone just looking at these curves and saying it's going to be the same and this, that, and the other, when everyone is kind of thinking that, not going to happen. Now, the final thing that I want to mention is retail growth and retail entering the space. So look, my YouTube channel is one that hasn't grown that aggressively because I don't do the clickbait titles, or I don't do the clickbait tiles. And I don't want that. Like, I don't want extra subscribers if they're coming for these get rich quick ideas. The same with that premium group. It's kind of frustrated me that we've had a lot of people come in that aren't as respectful and whatever. And I'm thinking about how we can change that, because it's not about numbers for me. It's never been about that. I want a good quality community. So where am I going with all this? When I continually to hear people on Twitter saying, retail has just arrived, that's one of the reasons why we're going far higher. This cycle is already different. Who has been coming in early on compared to 2017? Well, even rewind further, let's go back to 2012-13 when I first got into it, and it was the cypherpunks. And then towards the end of that cycle, we started to have maybe like the gold and silver crowd, conspiracy theorists, the people that were digging deep on the internet and found these sort of things. In 2017, it was retail that took a bit of a risk. Their mates that found out and they told their friends and whatever, and it wasn't smart money. Funds didn't have a way to get in. This time around, after crypto winter, when we said that all these funds were going to build out infrastructure to make money off their clients, and once they're happy, they'll start spruiking Bitcoin. And what do you see on talking heads out on CNBC, all through Twitter and that, 400,000. Now that they can make money off it, they're promoting it. Now, this time around, people are saying retail is just entering, so this is why alt season's just starting and this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? Every other bubble in history, retail has been late. So just because the smart money took Bitcoin from 3,800 in March 2020 in the crash to 50,000 in less than a year, and now retail are jumping in. We thought they were going to jump in at 20,000 once it reached all-time highs. It's moved so quickly, they haven't really jumped in till 30, 40, now 50,000 when it's on the front page of all these magazines and, the newspapers and stuff. And so, yeah, I guess you can argue that Google Trends is just picking up and we've just hit the 2017 peak in terms of all these different searches in different countries. I'm not sure why this isn't loading, sorry. Let's try a different word, see if that fixes it. But my point is, retail, just because retail are entering now, it doesn't mean that more retail are going to enter and push prices up like they did in 2017. Retail don't have the amount of money to match Elon. Elon buys 1.5 billion. If Bitcoin is going to 10x because of retail entering, do retail have 15 billion to push up? You're seeing what I'm saying here? It's all well and good at a small market cap in 2017 for retail investors. One guy gets in, 10 mates hear about it at the barbecue, and then, they push things up 10x with altcoins and all that. I just think it's completely different now, and there's no way retail investors are going to push up institutional money, to the same degree. So, again, I want to reinforce that message that I remain super bullish long term. Bitcoin and Litecoin 4-year halving super cycle. I've done updated videos of these as well. But yeah, I just think that we probably need a pretty big washout considering everything that I'm seeing on the charts, just the attitudes of people, where the sentiment. So I have my cheat list in the group for members. You walk down the list of fundamentals, technicals, and the sentiment psychology. You walk through that checklist and you ask yourself where we are for the majority of altcoins, even for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I just think that what people don't realize, when things have gone up this much in this period of time, when smart money has been the early investors, they take profits. So these crypto funds, these DeFi funds, when they've made 10, 20, 100x, 700x on Aave and Synthetics, those initial venture fund investors, the people that put money into those, they expect their fund manager to take profits. It's not like retail again, where all retail pile into an alt or an ICO and none of them have really invested before and none of them know how to take profits. And so these things pump 100x because no one is selling. Until one or two people start, then the cascade starts, the order books are thin, everything I said before you know it, it's down 90%. And so I still think that, yes, I know all these arguments about how Bitcoin is going $1 million, blah, 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 but the market has changed. It's starting to mature. Smart money takes profits, even if it's just taking out their initial investment. I'm not saying they're selling it all, but if you've invested and smart money has invested any time, even if they were a little bit late to the party here and they bought at 10K or 20K, these people aren't throwing in $1,000 as a retail investor and hoping it does 10 or 100x. They're putting in $100 million. And when you double your $100 million or triple it in under a year, you are expected, it's the responsible thing to do, to sell some, take out your initial investment. If you take out 100 mil, you've still got 100 or 200 riding. That money has to come from somewhere. And like I said, it's not retail investors that are going to give that insto guy $100 million to take out I just think it's way out of balance compared to the previous cycle in terms of how people are going to, who are they buying off? Who's on the other side of the screen, as I always say. I guess the overall environment that we're in has been really good for Bitcoin. DXY has been falling absolutely. You couldn't ask for any more perfectly. Maybe it has one more leg down, like Benny and I discussed the other night in that video. But maybe it does start to bottom or just go sideways. Stocks have just been absolutely crazy and euphoric and ridiculous money printing. Maybe they're starting to get to a point where they're still printing money, but it breaks down. It doesn't work. There's inequality. Retail or everyday Joe Blow demands more of that money, rather than it going into financial markets and creating these huge bubbles. So I just think that there's so many people in this space that have got the biggest followings and the most influence that they're not investors. They don't have an investment background. And it's all well and good. Everyone's a genius in crypto markets when it's only ever gone up. But these people don't understand how to invest in normal markets. And the crypto markets are becoming a mature, normal asset class. And yeah, I just think a lot of people are being led to the slaughter because they're following people that are not experienced investors. And even some of these guys that are super, super experienced crypto investors, they don't realize that the market's changed. If they're TA guys, they're just looking at the charts still. If they're on-chain data guys, they're just looking at that on-chain data and they're saying, well, in previous cycles, we didn't peak until this happened. So it's all good. There's regulation overlooming in the background. India banned crypto. Maybe the market gets a bit of fear about others countries doing it, and it's just enough fear to prevent retail coming in because of all the FUD that would be created in the news cycle. So no matter what happens, even if every country bans Bitcoin, it is still going much higher longer term. Okay, so I don't want you guys to think that I've turned bearish on crypto. I'm just saying I just want to be on record as very clearly pointing out the raft of factors that I see as an investor that's been in many markets and really put the focus on sentiment and psychology and what I'm seeing at the moment versus people's expectations and reality. People that are giving me the hardest time at the moment are probably the ones that are going to look back and go, oh yeah, it was obvious. It was obvious that Bitcoin was going to pull back when it hit 50K. Look at this chart. And we're drifting back down to here. So, look, I know this isn't going to be a popular video. It's not what people want to hear. But guess what? You can make money on the downside too. That's something that I very much plan on helping members with, and we already have. Like I said before, we've already short the shitcoin index. We've already short ADA, XRP. What was the other one? Elrond. So you can make money on the way down, and very few people know how to do it. It's actually easier than on the way up because only very few people take the time to learn that skill. So, look, not a popular video. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of thumbs down. Nobody wants to hear it, but hopefully I've helped you guys. Well, I know we've had more people than ever become millionaires in the group over the past couple of weeks, and some of the kind messages I've got have been awesome and make it all worth it. But I've also copped that abuse about how I've got weak hands and whatnot. Well, I'm not sure if any of those people give me a hard time have held as long as I have. So I think I've got stronger hands than them. Anyway, for regular updates, guys, become a member because I'm not able to probably commit as much time to YouTube as I used to. We've got such a big business these days with 20 odd staff and family growing, a lot on my plate. And like I said, sometimes when you get those disrespectful messages and just the crap that you see in the Twitter comments, YouTube comments, you kind of think, well, why is it even worth it? I'm just going to concentrate on making the content for our platform now that we've got thousands of people in there. They deserve the majority of my attention. And that's kind of always been the plan, I think, big picture as well. So hopefully, again, this one helps you a little bit with your decision-making process. Nothing to fear or panic about. there's been plenty of corrections in crypto markets over the years. There'll be plenty more in the future. I just think that we're due for one now. And then once there's blood in the streets, I'll be buying plenty more of all my favorite coins when I feel the time is right. So a little bit different today. Smash that like if you appreciate these videos and the no ads and the content. Get your friends and family to subscribe, because YouTube won't recommend these videos to anyone, because we don't make money for them with no ads, because we don't have clickbait tiles. People won't click on them. And I will talk to you again soon. Cheers.